You know, we didn't plan this as a Democratic response to Trump madness, but I'm afraid that's where we are at 10 p.m. tonight. You just heard a former president of the United States, front runner for the Republican nomination, saying that it's time for the Republicans to force a default on the debt. He actually wants them to do it. What was your reaction to that?
Well, the Republican Party under Donald Trump and Trumpism has three basic philosophical pillars. One, facts don't matter. Two, hypocrisy is not a constraint to their behavior. And three, they actually believe that shamelessness is a superpower. This is a circumstance where Democrats, as you pointed out, Lawrence, for 3 times during the previous administration, raised the debt ceiling without partisanship, without gamesmanship, without showmanship, notwithstanding the fact that in our 247-year history, 25% of the nation's debt was accumulated during the 4 years of the Trump presidency. Yet we understood that a default would be catastrophic, that it would hurt everyday Americans, hurt small businesses, hurt the economy, and was not something that could ever be allowed to happen. And here we have a former president making this extraordinary declaration. In part, perhaps, it's because they believe that if they blow up the economy, it may inure to their political benefit. I think they're wrong about that because the American people understand how extreme and how reckless and how dangerous this group of extreme MAGA Republicans have become.
You know, when he advocated tonight defaulting on the debt, he gave us multiple choices. He says he doesn't actually know what will happen. He said, you really don't know what will happen until you do it. He said it might be very bad. It might not. It might not be very bad. He gave the country that whole range of possible outcomes from this very reckless idea that he's advocating.
It's very clear that if a default were to occur, it would be extremely bad for the country, for the economy, for everyday Americans. One, it would likely result in triggering a job-killing recession. Millions upon millions of good-paying jobs will be wiped out almost in an instant. It will crash the stock market, which will result in millions of retirees being put into a very difficult situation, creating a wide range of retirement insecurity for people who are heading into or are in their golden years. And it's also going to dramatically increase costs for people all across the country. It's a non-starter. It cannot happen. And it's unfortunate that there are some in the House of Representatives who nonetheless, perhaps because they're taking orders from the former president, are taking us down this path. I'm thankful for President Biden's leadership. He convened us yesterday. It was a forward-looking conversation. Staff met for several hours today. That will continue tomorrow. President Biden's going to bring us back together on Friday, and hopefully we'll be able to find a constructive path forward. Certainly, House and Senate Democrats under the leadership of President Biden are committed to making sure we do everything possible to avoid a dangerous default.
Some of Donald Trump's lies were challenged on CNN tonight, but not nearly close to all of Donald Trump's lies were challenged. None of Donald Trump's lies about abortion were challenged on CNN tonight, including Donald Trump saying that Democrats support abortion at 9 months of pregnancy and that Democrats support abortion, which is to say, killing infants after they are naturally born. He said that they are in favor of infanticide. He called it abortion after the birth of the child. But he got away with all of that on CNN without any resistance whatsoever.
You know, Donald Trump has never met a lie that he doesn't like or that he's unafraid to tell. And I think the challenge here is that the Democratic position on reproductive freedom is very clear. We support Roe v. Wade. We support a woman's freedom to make her own reproductive health care decisions. And it's unfortunate that he was allowed to articulate those lies repeatedly without it being questioned, including by anyone in the audience, which was very disturbing, as I've seen reports of how the audience consistently reacted to many of the inhumane or undignified or reckless things that Donald Trump was allowed to spout over the air for more than an hour, it appears.
Well, it
we
was
support that freedom. We support that woman's freedom. Mm-hmm. And Lawrence, what the Republicans want to do is criminalize abortion care and impose a nationwide ban. That's what's at stake, one of the things at stake in the upcoming election.
Just to be clear, that was not in no sense a town hall, in a real town hall in New Hampshire. That audience was chosen person by CNN. That's how they got in that room. Here is a lie Donald Trump told to that audience, to the country and the world, without any resistance at all from anyone in that room. He said, "We have run out of ammunition because we gave it all to Ukraine." Does the United States military have any ammunition left tonight?
Certainly in the United States, military remains the strongest military in the world. And by the way, our involvement in Ukraine is incredibly important. The people of Ukraine have fought valiantly, and it's a struggle not just between Ukraine and Russia, but between democracy and autocracy, between truth and propaganda, between freedom and tyranny. And it appears that Donald Trump may be on the side of autocracy, of propaganda, of tyranny, but that should surprise no one.
I want to go to another point where there was some resistance to what Donald Trump was saying about the way he took classified documents into his possession after the presidency. But he got away with an awful lot of lies about it, even within that resistance. And what CNN could never penetrate was the reason there was what Donald Trump called a raid on his home. And of course, the reason the FBI went to his home with a search warrant is because they had credible information, probable cause to believe that Donald Trump had committed obstruction of justice because Donald Trump had submitted through his lawyers a written certification swearing that he had already turned over all classified documents, all relevant documents to the Justice Department and the FBI, that he'd already complied fully with the subpoena. Because the FBI knew that that wasn't true, that is why they actually went there with a search warrant. And no one in that audience ever heard that information tonight.
You know, the wonderful thing about America, and George Washington said this in his farewell address to the nation at the end of his presidency, is that the Constitution is sacredly obligatory upon all. That includes former presidents. Here in this country, no one is above the law. And ultimately, people who are wrongdoers like Donald Trump will face accountability. And we'll see there are multiple investigations, including the one that you referenced, Lawrence, that are underway. I expect that those prosecutors will follow the facts, apply the law, be guided by the Constitution, and make sure that people are held accountable for their actions. And I expect that this may be a summer of accountability that we are about to enter into for the former twice impeached president of the United States of America.
You know, I've seen your press conferences, and I know historically that the Capitol Hill press corps can be much more challenging of speakers of the House or minority leaders of the House than ever happens with Donald Trump. And one of the things that I think we can expect is that anyone who Donald Trump agrees to be interviewed by will not be capable of challenging Donald Trump on every single lie that he tells in any kind of interview. And so this is the kind of thing where we may be seeing more of these over time. Will the Democrats have a strategy of response to these events, or are you going to let this play out within the Republican primaries?
Well, first of all, you're exactly right that the Capitol Hill press corps is not a bashful group. And we look forward to that continued back and forth and engagement. It's good for democracy, the fourth estate. In terms of holding Donald Trump or other extreme MAGA Republicans responsible for their lies, their falsehoods, their half-truths at best in certain circumstances, I expect that the Democratic Party will be prepared to do that on an ongoing basis, legislatively as well as politically. But what perhaps is going to be most important is that President Biden, Democrats in the House and the Senate will continue to articulate our vision for making life better for everyday Americans, for putting people over politics, for focusing on core issues, lower costs, better paying jobs, safer communities, certainly fighting for reproductive freedom, defending our democracy, and articulating a vision to build an economy that really does work for everyday Americans, that elevates the American dream in every single zip code. I think the combination of that affirmative vision and also making it clear to the American people that this is an extreme group of people on the Republican side of the aisle, extreme on Social Security, extreme on Medicare, extreme on gun safety, extreme on reproductive freedom, extreme on democracy. If we're able to articulate that vision and compare and contrast who we are versus who these extreme MAGA Republicans are, I think the American people will positively respond to President Biden and to our vision.
Donald Trump was not asked a single question about the spending cuts that House Republicans are trying to force onto a debt ceiling bill. What are those spending cuts that you think that audience should have heard about tonight?
Yeah, this is the challenge with the House Republican Default on America Act. Is that what they are trying to do is jam extreme, reckless, dangerous cuts down the throats of the American people. 22% across the board cut that will include dramatically cutting Medicaid for children with disabilities and older Americans, including those in nursing homes. Dramatically cut education assistance, resulting in the loss of jobs for teachers all across America in all likelihood. Dramatically cut support for public safety. Dramatically cut nutrition and food assistance for more than 30 million food insecure Americans. Dramatically cut health care. Dramatically cut veterans benefits. This is what has been proposed by House Republicans. They haven't submitted a budget, but they did give us a ransom note, essentially saying to the American people, either we're going to jam these extreme cuts down the throats of the American people, or alternatively, force a catastrophic default. That's not responsible government. And so hopefully we'll be able to come together in a reasoned, inspired, enlightened way as we move forward coming out of the meeting on Friday.